Rule 3. Substituting, coaching, bench and field conduct, charged conferences. Section 1. Substituting. Article 1. After the lineup cards are official, prior to the game, the player listed as the pitcher shall pitch until the first opposing batter has been put out or it is advanced to first base. In any other case, a substitute may replace a player of his team when the ball is dead and time has been called. The umpire-in-chief shall record any reported substitutions on the lineup card and then announce immediately any changes to the opposing team. Projected substitutions are not allowed. In each of the following situations, the ball is declared live by the umpire-in-chief. Should there be no announcement of substitutions, a substitute is entered the game when the ball is live and A. A runner takes the place of a runner he has replaced. B. A pitcher takes his place on the pitcher's plate. C. A fielder reaches the position usually occupied by the fielder he has replaced. D. A batter takes his place in the batter's box. Penalty. If the starting pitcher does not face one batter, he may play another position, but not return to pitch. For discovery of an illegal substitute on offense by the umpire or either team, that player shall be called out and restricted to the bench dugout for the duration of the game. An illegal player discovered on defense shall be restricted to the bench dugout for the duration of the game. If a restricted player re-enters the game on offense, he shall be called out immediately and ejected upon discovery by an umpire or either team. If a restricted player re-enters on defense, he shall be ejected upon discovery by an umpire or either team. The penalty for illegal substitution shall supersede the penalty for batting out of order. If the illegal substitute should score a run, advance, or cause a play to be made that allows another runner to advance, discovery must be made by the umpire or either team before the pitch to the next batter of either team. This would invalidate the action of the illegal offensive substitute. Any outs made on the play stands, and all other runners return to the bases occupied at the time of the pitch. In a game-ending situation, discovery must be made before all infielders leave the diamond. An illegal substitute on defense shall be replaced immediately upon discovery by the umpire or either team. If an illegal player on defense is involved in a play and the infraction is discovered by an umpire or either team prior to the first pitch to the next batter of either team, the team on offense has the option to let the play stand or to allow the batter to bat again. Any player who is substituted for by an illegal substitute may re-enter only if he is eligible to do so under the re-entry rule. May re-enter only if he is eligible to do so under the re-entry rule. Article 2. If a pitcher is replaced while his team is on defense, the substitute pitcher shall pitch to the batter then at bat, or any substitute for that batter, until such batter is put out or reaches first base, or until a third out has been made. To ensure that the requirements of this article is fulfilled, the umpire will deny any coach defensive player conference that will violate this rule. If the pitcher is incapacitated or guilty of flagrant unsportsmanlike conduct, this rule is ignored. A player may be removed as pitcher and returned as pitcher only once per inning, provided the return as pitcher does not violate either the pitching substitution or charged conference rule. If the pitcher, because of an injury or being incapacitated, is replaced as pitcher and the above rule is not satisfied, or if his replacement requires more warm-ups throws than permitted, he cannot return the game as a pitcher. Article 3. Any of the starting players may be withdrawn and re-entered once, including a player who was the designated hitter, provided such player occupies the same batting position whenever he is in the lineup. The pitcher is governed by the provisions of Article 2 above. A substitute who is withdrawn may not re-enter. A starting pitcher who is replaced in the top of the first inning while his team is at bat shall be governed by the provisions of Articles 1 and 2 above. Article 4. A hitter may be, but not mandatory, designated for any one of the starting players, not just pitchers, and all subsequent substitute for that player in the game. A designated hitter for said player shall be selected prior to the start of the game, and his name shall be included on the lineup cards presented to the umpire-in-chief and to the official scorer. A team forfeits its use of the designated hitter if it fails to declare a designated hitter prior to the start of the game. If a pinch runner or pitch runner for the designated hitter is used, that player becomes the new designated hitter. The player who was the designated hitter may re-enter as the designated hitter under the re-entry rule. A designated hitter and the player from whom he is batting are locked into the batting order. No multiple substitutions may be made that will alter the batting rotation. A designated hitter may be used in one of two scenarios. A. The designated hitter may be the 10th starter hitting for any of the 1-9 starting defensive players. If the designated hitter is used in this manner, the role of the DH is terminated for the remainder of the game when 1. The defensive player or any previous defensive player for whom the designated hitter batted subsequently bats, pinch hits, or pinch runs for the designated hitter. 2. The designated hitter or any previous designated hitter assumes a defensive position. B. The starting designated hitter may be one of the starting defensive players. In this manner, the starting defensive player has two positions, the defensive player and the designated hitter. The role of the defensive player may be substituted for by any legal substitute. If the defensive player has been substituted for, the original player DH may re-enter one time. The role of the DH is terminated for the remainder of the game when 1. A substitute or former substitute for the defensive role subsequently participates in an offensive role, or 2. The starting defensive player DH is substituted for either as a hitter or a runner. Article 5. Any player who exhibits signs, symptoms, or behaviors consistent with a concussion, such as loss of consciousness, headache, dizziness, confusion, or balance problems, may be immediately removed from the game and shall not return to play until cleared by an appropriate health care professional. NFHS suggested guidelines for management of concussion, Appendix B. Article 6. A player or coach who is bleeding or who has an open wound shall be prohibited from participating further in the game until appropriate treatment has been administered. If medical care or treatment can be administered in a reasonable amount of time, the individual would not have to leave the game. The length of time that is considered reasonable is umpire judgment. The re-entry rule applies to starters. If there is any amount of blood on the uniform, it shall be changed or cleaned before that individual participates again. Section 2. Coaching. Article 1. One player or coach may occupy each coach's box while his team is at bat. A coach who is not in the uniform of the team shall be restricted to the bench dugout. However, A coach may leave the bench dugout to attend to a player who becomes ill or injured. He may address base runners or the batter. Coaches may wear prostheses and use mobility devices. Any member of the team at bat who has not been ejected for unsportsmanlike conduct may occupy the coach's box. Article 2. No coach shall physically assist a runner during playing action. Penalty. The runner shall be called out immediately. Article 3. No offensive team personnel other than the base coach shall be near a base for which a runner is trying so that the fielder may be confused, nor be on or near the baseline in such a way as to draw a throw, nor shall the base coach or members of the team at bat fail to vacate any area needed by a fielder in his attempt to put out a batter or runner. If a thrown live ball unintentionally touches a base coach in foul territory, or a pitched or thrown ball touches an umpire, the ball is live and in play. If the coach is judged by the umpire to have interfered intentionally with a thrown ball or interferes in fair territory, the interference penalty is invoked. The penalty: the ball is dead immediately and the runner is out. The batter runner or runner may be out as in 741F and 842G. Other runners return as in 828. Article 4. The head coach must attend pregame conference if available. The head coach will be restricted to the dugout for the remainder of the game, except to attend to sick and injured player if he refuses to attend the pregame conference. Section 3. Bench and field conduct. Article 1. A coach, player, substitute, attendant, or other bench personnel shall not: A. Leave the bench during live ball for an unauthorized purpose. B. Fake tag without the ball. C. Carelessly throw a bat. D. Wear jewelry or wear bandanas. E. Hit the ball to players on defense after the game has started. The penalty: at the end of playing action, the umpire shall issue a warning to the coach of the team involved, and the next offender of that team shall be ejected. In B, fake tag without the ball, it is also obstruction. F. Commit any unsportsmanlike act to include, but not limited to: 1. Use of words or actions to incite or attempt to incite spectators' demonstrations. 2. Use of profanity, intimidation tactics, remarks reflecting unfavorably upon any other person, or taunting or baiting. The NFHS disapproves of any form of taunting. 3. Use of any language intended to intimidate. 4. Behavior in any manner not in accordance with the spirit of fair play. 5. Being in live ball territory, excluding team's bullpen area, during the opponent's infield practice prior to the start of the game. 6. Any member of the coaching staff who is not the head coach or designated E in 324, leaving the vicinity of the dugout or coaching box to dispute judgment call by an umpire. 7. Confronting or directing unsportsmanlike conduct to the umpires after the game has concluded and until the umpires have departed the game site. G. Enter the area behind the catcher while the opposing pitcher and catcher are in their positions. H. Use of any object in his possession in the coach's box other than a stopwatch, rule book, hard copy, or scored book. I. Be outside the designated dugout, bench, or bullpen area if not a batter, runner, on-deck batter, in the coach's box, or one of the 9 players on defense. J. Charge an umpire. K. Use of amplifiers or bullhorns for coaching purposes during the course of the game. Penalty. The umpire shall warn the offender unless the offense is judged to be major, in which case an ejection shall occur. A warning may be verbal or written. If written, the offender shall be restricted to the bench dugout area for the remainder of the game. If a coach has previously received a verbal warning, he shall receive a written warning and be restricted to the bench dugout for the remainder of the game. If a coach has previously received a written warning, he shall be ejected for the subsequent offense. Any offense judged to be major in nature shall result in immediate ejection. For coaches who violate F, G, H, I, J, or K, the umpire may issue a verbal warning to the offender, issue a written warning to the offender. Any offender receiving a written warning shall be restricted to the bench dugout for the remainder of the game. Or 3. Eject the offender for a major offense. For a violation of F6, both the head coach and the offending coach shall receive written warning and be restricted to the dugout for the remainder of the game. Unless the offense is so severe, the umpire may eject the offender and restrict or eject the head coach. A coach may leave the bench dugout to attend to a player who becomes ill or injured. In F7, the state association shall determine appropriate action. I. Deliberately throw a bat, helmet, etc. M. Initiate malicious contact on offense or defense. N. Call time or use any command or commit any act for the purpose of causing a balk. O. Use of tobacco or tobacco-like products within the confines of the field. P. Leave their positions or bench area during a fight or physical confrontation. Q. Have physical contact, spit, kick dirt, or engage in any other physical action directed towards an umpire. Penalty. The umpire shall eject the offender from the game. Failure to comply shall result in the game being forfeited. In M, the ball is dead immediately. If it is on offense, the player is ejected and declared out unless he has already scored. If the defense commits the malicious contact, the player is ejected. The umpire shall rule either safe or out on the play and award the runners the appropriate bases he felt they may have obtained if the malicious contact had not occurred. In P, a coach who attempts to prevent a fight or restore order is not in violation of the rule. Article 2. A coach who is ejected shall leave the vicinity of the playing area immediately and is prohibited from further contact, direct or indirect, with the team during the remainder of the game. He may return when requested to attend to an ill or injured player. Article 3. Players loosening up to bat shall remain in the area of their team's on-deck circle while the pitcher is warming up. The penalty: the umpire shall issue a team warning to the bench of the team involved. The next offender on that team will be ejected. Article 4. Whenever team members are loosening up in an area which is not protected by a fence or other structure, another member of the team with a glove must be positioned between them and the batter to protect them from a batted or thrown ball within the confines of the playing field. No one is to interfere with a live ball. Section 4. Charged conferences. Each team, when on defense, may be granted not more than 3 charged conferences during a 7-inning game without penalty, to permit coaches or other non-playing representatives to confer with the defensive player or players. In an extra inning game, each team shall be permitted to have 1 charged conference each inning while on defense without penalty. The number of charged conferences permitted is not cumulative. A request for time for this purpose shall be made by a coach, player, substitute, or attendant. Time granted for an obviously incapacitated player shall not constitute a charged conference. Prior to accumulating 3 charged conferences in 7 innings or less, a conference is not charged if a pitcher is removed as pitcher. Penalty: after 3 charged conferences in a 7-inning game, or any charged conference in excess of 1 in each extra inning, the pitcher shall be removed as pitcher for the duration of the game. Article 2. Each team, when on offense, may be granted not more than 1 charged conference per inning to permit the coach or any of that team's personnel to confer with base runners, the batter, the on-deck batter, or other offensive team personnel. The umpire shall deny any subsequent offensive team requests for charged conferences. Article 3. A defensive charged conference is concluded when the coach or non-playing representative crosses the foul line if the conference was in fair territory. If the conference was in foul territory, the conference concludes when the coach or non-playing representative initially starts to return to the bench dugout area. Article 4. An offensive charge conference is concluded when the coach or team representative initially starts to return to the coaching box or dugout bench area. For Articles 3 and 4, if a coach who has been restricted to the bench dugout area is involved in a charge conference, that conference shall end when the players involved initially start to return to their positions on the field. The coach shall be given a reasonable amount of time for a charge conference as determined by the umpire-in-chief. Article 5. When either team has a charged conference, the other team may also have a conference which is not charged, provided the conference concludes when the opposing team's charge conference concludes, so that the game is not further delayed. Rule 3. Substituting, coaching, bench and field conduct, charge conferences. Substitutions. Situation A. B1 has a count of 1 ball and 2 strikes when the captain or coach decides to put in a pinch runner, S1. Ruling. The coach should ask the umpire to call time when to make a substitution. When S1 enters, he is charged with 1 ball and 2 strikes. If S1 strikes out, the strikeout and time at bat are charged against B1, since he had more than half of the allotted number of strikes. In any other case, the time at bat would be charged to S1. Situation B. S1, who is an unreported eligible substitute, steps into the batter's box in place of B1, and after the first pitch to S1, a member of the team at bat discovers that S1 has not been properly reported to the umpire-in-chief. Or B. The member of the defensive team discovers that S1 has not been properly reported to the umpire-in-chief. Or C. The umpire discovers that S1 has not been properly reported to the umpire-in-chief. Ruling. In A, B, and C, S1 was officially in the game once he entered the batter's box and the ball was live. Therefore, he assumes the count and there is no penalty. Situation C. S1, who was not a starter and has already been in and out of the game once, appears at bat in place of B2. This is discovered while S1 is at bat by A, the offensive team, B, the defensive team, or C, an umpire. Ruling. In each case, S1 is an illegal substitute and is restricted to the dugout for the duration of the game. He shall also be called out. The penalty for an ineligible substitute supersedes the penalty for batting out of order. The out is credited to F2. Situation D. S1 enters the game for a starter, F3. S1 or his coach fails to report to the umpire-in-chief. While S1 is playing, the A, team at bat, or B, the defensive team, or C, discovers the infraction. Has F3 been out of the game? Yes, F3 may re-enter according to Rule 313. Situation E. The coach of Team A tells the umpire that Jones will hit for Smith, who is the next batter, and replace Lee in left field the next time on defense. Ruling. The umpire-in-chief shall accept the substitutions for Jones hitting for Smith. However, no substitution shall be reported to the umpire-in-chief until such time as the substitution is actually made. Therefore, the umpire will tell the coach of Team A to wait until his team is going on defense before reporting any defensive substitutions. Situation F. S1 replaces B5 in the third inning. In the seventh inning, with 2 outs, R2 on second and R1 on first, B5 re-enters without reporting. B5 hits to F4, who misplays the ball, and all runners are safe after advancing. The defensive team's coach approaches the plate umpire to question if F5 had been reported. Ruling. S1 is out of the game. B5 is a legal substitute, even though he did not report. Situation G. With 2 outs and an illegal substitute on second base, B4 hits a home run out of the park. Before the next pitch, the illegal substitute is discovered. Ruling. The illegal substitute is called out and restricted to the bench. No runs score since the out on the runner at second base was the third out. The home run is nullified. B4 leads off the next inning. Situation H. S1, an unreported substitute, is batting for B2 instead of B3. While at bat, S1 coaches realize S1 is not batting for the correct player. Ruling. Since S1 became a legal substitute upon entering the batter's box when the ball became live, S1 is officially at bat and B2 is considered out of the game. The next batter is B3. Situation I. S1, who is an illegal substitute, scores, but B4 is thrown out for the third out, attempting to advance to second base on a base hit. As both teams change positions and before a pitch to the next batter can be made, the umpire is informed by the opposing team coach that S1 is an illegal substitute. Ruling. Even though both teams changed positions, a pitch had not been thrown to the next batter. Therefore, the previous play is nullified. S1 is called out. His run does not count, and B4 shall lead off the next inning. Situation J. S1 comes in for F7 in the second inning, but is not discovered. In the seventh inning, S1 comes in for F8 and is batting when the opposing team contends that S1 was a substitute earlier in the game. Ruling. Unless the umpire has knowledge that S1 had in fact been in the game earlier, S1 cannot be treated as an illegal substitute. Situation K. A. Before the pregame conference, or B. After the pregame conference, Team A's coach decides not to start F1. Ruling. Lineups become official after they have been exchanged, verified, and then accepted by the umpire-in-chief during the pregame conference. In A, lineup cards may be made without penalty. In B, unless F1 is injured, ill, or ejected, or removed by his coach for disciplinary reasons, F1 shall pitch to one batter. If F1 does not pitch to one batter, F1 shall not pitch for the remainder of the game, but he may play another position. Situation L. With 1 out and R3 on third, S1, an illegal substitute, bats and hits an inside-the-park home run, scoring R3 and himself. The illegal substitute is detected by the opposing team. A. Before the next pitch, or B. A pitch to the next batter. Ruling. In A, the illegal substitute is declared out and restricted to the bench. The runner before him will be placed back on third. In B, since the pitch had been thrown, the illegal substitute is no longer on the bases and the play stands. Both runs count. Situation M. With the bases loaded and 2 outs, an illegal substitute, A, hits a home run, or B, while at bat, F1 throws a wild pitch which allows R3 to score. The illegal substitute is detected before the next pitch. Ruling. In A, the illegal substitute is restricted to the bench and no run scores because the illegal substitute was the third out. In B, the run counts and the illegal substitute is declared out and restricted to the bench. The inning is over. Situation N. Smith is the catcher and Jones is the left fielder as their team leaves the field to come to bat. The coach tells plate umpire that Smith will go to left field and Jones will go in as catcher when the team returns to defense. The coach is really wishing to make the change so that the slower Jones can have a courtesy runner if he gets on base in the half inning. Ruling. The umpire shall not allow a projected substitution. Therefore, a courtesy runner would only be allowed for the run if the player who was the catcher on defense before coming out. Situation O. S1, who is an illegal substitute, is discovered playing second base and who was previously restricted to the dugout. Ruling. S1 is ejected upon discovery by an umpire or either team. Situation P. With runners on second and third bases respectively, S1, who is an illegal substitute and was previously restricted to the dugout, bats and advances to second base. Ruling. S1 is called out and ejected. All other runners are returned to the bases occupied at the time of the pitch. Situation Q. With R run on first base, B2 doubles, and A, before the next pitch, R1 is discovered to be an illegal player, or B, after the next pitch, R1 is discovered to be an illegal player. Ruling. In both A and B, R1 is out and restricted to the dugout for the remainder of the game. Situation R. In the first inning, C1 is a courtesy runner for the pitcher. In the second inning, C1 is a courtesy runner for the catcher. Ruling. Upon discovery, C1 is called out and restricted to the dugout for the remainder of the game. Situation A. F1 is replaced by S1. The catcher or coach of the defensive team indicates to the umpire-in-chief that his team wishes to grant an intentional base on balls. Following the intentional base on balls, S1 is replaced by S2. Ruling. This is legal, since S1 had faced the necessary one batter. Situation B. While taking his warm-up pitches prior to the start of the fourth inning, F1 develops a blister on the tip of his index finger and is replaced as pitcher. F1 replacement takes A, the remaining number of warm-up pitches due the starter, or B, more warm-up pitches than starter F1 was entitled. Ruling. As a substitute for the pitcher, S1 is allowed 8 warm-up pitches. If S1 takes only 8 warm-up pitches, F1 may return to be pitched later in the game, provided that all other aspects of the pitcher substitution have been met. If S1 needs to take more than 8 warm-up pitches, that may be allowed by the plate umpire, but if F1 could no longer return to pitch in this game. In the top half of the first, S1 pinch hits for F1. In the bottom half of the first inning, F1A re-enters to face the first batter, or B, does not re-enter until later. Ruling. A substitute may replace F1 while his team is at bat without penalty. Since F1 is a starter, he shall re-enter and pitch to the first batter in the bottom of the first inning. In A, F1 has complied with the rule. In B, since F1 did not pitch to the first batter, F1 may not return to pitch. He may, however, play another position. Substitutes re-entering. Situation A. A starting player re-enters the game a second time, third time in the game, either as A, F1, or B, F8, or C, batter. In A and B, the fielder shall be restricted to the bench immediately when discovered. In C, this is a legal substitute. Substitutes re-entering. Situation A. A player re-enters the game a second time, third time in the game, either as A, F1, or B, F8, or C, batter. Ruling. In A and B, the fielder shall be restricted to the bench immediately when discovered. In C, the illegal substitute is out and restricted to the bench. Situation B. Jones is a starting player in center field and batting second in the batting order. In the third inning, he is withdrawn and Smith replaces him. Subsequently, the coach desires to re-enter Jones as catcher and have him bat in the eighth position. Ruling. Illegal. Jones may re-enter only to replace Smith. If Smith has been replaced earlier by Gregory when Jones re-entered, he would have to replace Gregory. Jones, Smith, and Gregory are all required to occupy the second place in the batting order. However, they may play various positions. Neither Jones, Smith, or Gregory may be transferred to any other position in the batting order, nor may they replace any other players already in the lineup, and only Jones could re-enter once because of him being a starting player. When the constitute is withdrawn from the game, he may not be re-entered. Comment. What does Rule 313 allow? It permits any of the starting players to be withdrawn from the game and re-entered once, provided such player occupies the same batting position whenever he is in the lineup. Additionally, 313 indicates that the substitute or a player who replaces the pitcher whose team is not at bat shall pitch to the first opponent to bat against him until that batter has advanced to first base or has been put out, or until there is a third out. This is an excellent rule because it provides more players an opportunity to participate. Designated hitter. Situation A. D.H. Jones, who has been batting for F3 in the fourth position in the batting order, hits a triple in the fifth inning and sprains his ankle sliding into third base. His coach has S1 enter the game to be pitch runner for D.H. Jones. How does that affect the playing status of D.H. Jones and F3? Ruling. When a pinch runner or pitch hitter replaces the DH, that player becomes the DH. F3 would not be affected by the substitution. However, if the DH were to play defense, F3 would have to leave the game. Situation B. DH, batting in the second position in the lineup for starter F5, safely reaches first base, where a pitch runner S1 replaces him. The DH has been out of the game once. Since S1 may become the new DH, or the original DH may re-enter as DH or may play defense. If he plays defense, the role of DH is terminated. Whenever any current or former DH enters the game on defense, the role of designated hitter is terminated. Situation C. F4, for whom the DH is batting, pinch hits or pinch runs for the DH. Ruling. The designated hitter position is eliminated for the remainder of the game. However, the starting DH could re-enter as a player, but not as the role of DH. If he does re-enter, he must re-enter in the same position in the batting order, replacing F4. Situation D. The starting DH who is batting for F4 goes on defense for F4 at the end of the second inning. Ruling. This eliminates the DH position for the remainder of the game. Situation E. prior to the start of the game at the pregame conference meeting, the A. home team's coach prevents the plate umpire with a lineup card with Holiday, the DH, for Fieldhausen, the right fielder, and B. visiting coach presents a lineup card with Sullivan listed as the RF DH. Ruling. Legal in both A and B. Teams may choose to use either the DH option or no DH for a particular game as long as they declare their intentions prior to the start of the game. Situation F. Sanders is listed as the PDH, hitting in the third position in the batting order. In the fifth inning, McNeely enters the game as pitchers, with Sanders reaching his pitch count limit. Sanders continues as DH for McNeely. B. In the sixth inning, substitute Jackson enters to pitch replacing McNeely. Sanders remains the DH for Jackson. And C. In the seventh inning, Sanders returns to defense as the catcher and is still listed as the DH. Ruling. Legal in A, B, and C. Situation G. Kruger is listed on the RFDH, hitting third in the batting order. In the fifth inning, substitute Braudel enters as the right fielder with Kruger still as the DH, hitting for Rundell. Ruling. This is legal. Situation H. With Dolan listed in the starting lineup as the second base designated hitter and batting in fourth in the order, the coach wants to bring Tattleman to hit for Dolan. Ruling. If substitute Tattleman comes in to hit or run for Dolan, the role of the DH is terminated for the game. If eligible, Dolan may re-enter the game on defense and bat in the same spot in the batting order. Situation I. In the fourth inning, Montalbo replaces Colgate as the starting pitcher designated hitter. As pitcher, in the fifth inning, Colgate sprains his ankle as he slides into second base on a double. Colgate cannot continue and requires a pinch runner. Ruling. If an eligible substitute enters the game to pitch run for Colgate, the role of DH is terminated and Colgate is removed from the game. The coach may substitute another player, but this will end Montalbo's as the pitcher since the substitute enters the game in the batting order spot already occupied by Montalbo. However, if the coach has Montalbo pitch for Colgate, Montalbo may continue to pitch and hit for himself. Situation J. In the fourth inning, Federico, who is listed fourth in the batting order as pitcher designated hitter and hitting fourth, sprains his ankle running the bases and is taken out of the game and replaced by McGinnis, who later has an at-bat later in the sixth inning. Federico re-enters A to pinch hit for McGinnis, or B, play defense for Russell at first base with McGinnis still pitching. Ruling. Legal in A, illegal in B. Federico and McGinnis are locked into the same lineup spot and cannot be in the game on defense at the same time. Unconscious bleeding player. A. In the second inning, F8 runs into a fence chasing a fly ball and later exhibits signs of concussion. The coach and the player's father agree that F8 is okay to continue in the game. Ruling. Any player who exhibits signs, symptoms, or behaviors consistent with a concussion shall be immediately removed from the game and shall not return to play until cleared by an appropriate healthcare professional. Situation B. In the first inning, Jones is hit on the helmet with a pitch. In the fourth inning, Jones is hit again on the helmet by a pitch. In the sixth inning, Jones exhibits some balance problems. Ruling. Jones shall be removed from the game and shall not return uncleared by an appropriate healthcare professional. Situation A. R1, upon sliding into second base, suffers an open wound on his elbow, or B, is bleeding from the nose, or C, twists his ankle involving no external bleeding or open wound. Ruling. In A and B, R1 must receive appropriate treatment before participating further in the game. In A, B, and C, if the umpire believes that undue delay would result in the game, bleeding or injury requires extensive treatment, the player must leave the game. The re-entry rule applies. Situation B. After sliding into second base, has an excessive amount of blood on his uniform jersey. The umpire shall rule R1 must change his jersey. A. R1 changes his jersey with a teammate who is not presently in the game. B. Cleans the blood with special blood removal spray. C. The coach of Team A replaces R1's uniform jersey with a white t-shirt and writes a number 8 inches high on the back of the t-shirt using a permanent marker. D. The JV team is returned from its game and the coach of Team A requests R1 wear a JV shirt which is a different color. Ruling. Legal in A and B. The umpire shall change R1's uniform number on the lineup card and scorebook. In C and D, it is the umpire's judgment or whether or not to change should be allowed. Every effort should be made to allow the player to participate. Situation C. R1, after sliding into second base, has blood on his uniform jersey. Ruling. The umpire shall rule that R1 must change or clean his jersey. Equipment and coaching box. Situation A. The first base coach occupies the coaching box in a wheelchair. Ruling. This is legal. Situation B. The visiting team's head coach occupies the third base coaching box with a walker. Ruling. This is legal. Situation C. The home team's head coach was in a car accident and as a result his leg is in a cast and must use a cane. Ruling. As long as the cast is padded with at least a half-inch of closed-cell, slow recovery rubber, he may occupy the coaching box. The use of a cane is legal. Situation D. During the game, the coach from Team A goes onto the field to have a defensive conference. The coach is not wearing the team uniform. Ruling. Illegal. Coaches are required to be in team uniform. If the coach is not properly attired, then he cannot leave the bench dugout area unless attending to a player. Situation E. The home team's assistant coach appears in the first base coach's box wearing a team-colored wind pants and jacket. The assistant coach appears to be in the first base coach's box wearing team pants and a batting practice top. Ruling. In A, illegal. In B, while occupying a coach's box, he shall be in uniform of his team. However, the state associations may allow for reasonable accommodations that are consistent with the team's uniform. Situation F. The home team's head coach appears in the game not in the team uniform but in a business casual dress. A. The head coach calls timeout and calls the infield over to the dugout. B. The head coach calls time and walks out to the mound to confer with the pitcher. C. The head coach calls timeout to attend to an injured player. Ruling. A. No penalty. Coaches who have been restricted to the dugout are permitted to conduct charge conferences from their team's bench dugout. That conference call shall end when the players involved start to return to their positions on the field. B. Illegal. Only persons in uniform shall appear outside of the bench dugout. C. Legal. A coach not in uniform may leave the bench dugout when requested by the umpire to attend to a player who becomes ill or injured. Hey. Hey. Coach assisting runners. Situation A. B1 hits a home run out of the park and while rounding third trips over the base. The third base coach helps B1 to his feet. Ruling. The ball is dead, and since B1 was awarded 4 bases for the home run, he is allowed to score with this type of assistance by the third base coach. Situation B. With B3 on third base and 1 out, B3 hits a fly ball that A, F8 is about to catch, B is going over the fence for a home run, or C, bounces off the fence into play, as R3's coach at third physically assists R3 at third base. Ruling. In A, B, and C, R3 is called out immediately because of his coach's physical assistance. In all cases, the ball shall remain live, and any subsequent outs or advances by runners shall be allowed. In A, F8's catch would be the third out of the inning. In B, if there had been 2 outs instead of 1 at the time of the pitch, the physical assistance by the coach would have been the third out. As a result, B3's home run would not have counted. Balls hit coach in the coaching box. Situation. The third base coach is accidentally hit by a thrown ball when standing A, in the coacher's box, B, foul territory, C, fair territory. Ruling. There is no penalty in A and B, and the ball remains live. In C, it is automatic interference. Mandatory coaches pregame conference. Situation A. The head coach of Team A is caught in traffic and is notified his assistants that he'll be about 30 minutes late. Or B. Does not notify anyone at the game site. Ruling. In both A and B, the assistant coach may represent the team at the pregame conference and must certify that his team is legally and properly equipped. The head coach is not restricted and may assume normal duties upon arrival. Situation B. The head coach of Team A dislikes the umpire-in-chief and refuses to leave the dugout to attend the pregame conference. In his place, he sends the assistant coach and the team captain to the pregame conference. Ruling. The head coach is restricted to the dugout for the duration of the game. The assistant coach must represent the team at the pregame conference and must certify that his team is legally and properly equipped. Situation C. The head coach of Team A is A, on the bus tending to an injured player, or B, in the bullpen supervising his pitcher's warm-up, or C, finishing field op preparations. In both A and C, he refuses the request of the umpire-in-chief to attend the pregame conference. In all cases, he sends the assistant coach and the team captain to the pregame conference. In A, the head coach is legal and is not restricted and may resume normal duties upon his return. In B and C, the head coach is restricted to the dugout for the duration of the game. The assistant coach must represent the team at the pregame conference and must certify that his team is legally and properly equipped. Leaving the dugout bench during live ball. Situation. Score tied and R3 is at third. B2 hits a single to right. R3 scores and several players leave the dugout to congratulate R3. Ruling. At the end of playing action, the umpire will issue a warning to the coach of Team A and eject the next offender. If a warning has already been issued, all players leaving the bench dugout area will be ejected. Situation B. B1 hits a single and the bat boy runs out to retrieve the bat. Should the bat boy be ejected? Ruling. No. The intent is to limit offensive players from flooding the plate area and possibly interfering with the play around home plate. Situation C. As the go-ahead run scores on the gapper to left center field, several players come out of the dugout to congratulate the runner to celebrate the run. Following cessation of play, the opposing coach argues that they should all, or at least some of them, be ejected. Ruling. The umpire-in-chief will treat this incident as a single incident. He will warn the team's coach that a subsequent violation of the rule by any member of his team will result in an ejection and will record this warning on the lineup card. Situation D. The home team, having previously been given a warning for players approaching home to congratulate a teammate while the ball was still live and in play, Smith and Black rush out to high-five Jones, who just scored on a sacrifice fly. Ruling. Following the end of playing action, the umpire-in-chief will inform the home team coach that Smith and Black are ejected for leaving the dugout during live ball. He should remind the coach of the previous incident and warning which has led to these ejections because of a repeated offense. Situation E. The runner scores on the batter's double. While the ball is still live, players from the offensive team dugout congratulate the runner. Ruling. At the end of playing action, the umpire shall issue a warning to the coach of the team involved, and the next offender on that team shall be ejected. Situation F. During live playing action, Team A sends two players out to the bullpen down the left field line to warm up. Ruling. Legal. Warming up a pitcher is an authorized reason for players to be outside their dugouts while play is live. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Situation G. F1 is removed by his coach during the game, following the last out of the game. A. F1 makes an unsportsmanlike comment to the plate umpire near home plate regarding his strike zone. B. F1 berates the umpire as they leave the field heading to their benches. Ruling. In A, the umpires have jurisdiction until both of them leave the confines of the field. F1 is ejected, and a written report will be sent to the state association. B. While no longer having jurisdiction, the umpire shall send a written report to the state association, which will determine the appropriate response. Situation H. Team A is taking infield practice, and Team B has lined up along the first base foul line, making unsportsmanlike comments to Team A members. Ruling. The umpire warns Team B to return to its dugout or its bullpen, or he will enforce the unsportsmanlike penalty. Situation I. Team B players have positioned themselves along the first base line. The umpire has previously issued warnings to Team B's coach, Jones, making the disconcerting comments about Team A's player, Smith, during infield practice. Smith throws the ball at Jones and a fight ensues. Ruling. Team B's coach is restricted to the bench for the duration of the game. Jones is ejected from the game. Smith is ejected from the game, and any player who participated in the fight is ejected from the game. Situation J. As Team A takes infield prior to the game, several members of Team B start yelling insulting remarks at various players of Team A and make fun of their uniforms. Ruling. The umpire should warn the coach of Team B immediately that if any of his players make further remarks or try to intimidate Team A in any way, the offender shall be ejected from the game and directed away from live ball territory. Situation K. With R3 on third, teammates in the third base dugout start yelling sneeze, squeeze on each pitch as the batter starts its motion. The umpire requests that the players refrain from this continuing. The coach replies that there is no rule prohibiting such action. Ruling. After a warning, the coach may be restricted to the dugout or, if warranted, ejected for failure to comply with an order from the umpire. Situation L. The umpire-in-chief requests that the third base coach remain within the confines of the boxes. However, the coach argues that he can be outside the box since he is outside the line farthest from home plate. Ruling. After a warning, the coach may be restricted to the dugout or, if warranted, ejected for failure to comply with an order from an umpire. Situation M. In the top of the second inning, the plate umpire judges a pitch to be a ball. Defensive team's head coach, who has not previously received a verbal or written warning, yells at the umpire from the dugout in protest to the umpire's call. Ruling: if the umpire judges that the coach is yelling to be rudimentary in nature, he should verbally warn the head coach that any further arguing may result in the coach's restriction to the dugout or ejection from the game. If the umpire judges the coach's action to be more ill-mannered, he may issue a written warning and restrict the coach to the dugout. If the umpire judges the coach's action to be inappropriate, the coach shall be ejected. Situation N. The defensive team's head coach, who has previously received verbal warning, yells at the umpire from the dugout in protest of another call. Ruling: if the umpire judges the coach is yelling to be rudimentary in nature, he should issue a written warning to the coach and restrict the coach to the dugout for the remainder of the game. The umpire should note on his lineup card the coach's name, the point in the game of the warning, inning, number of outs, and location of runners, and the reason for the warning. If the umpire judges the coach is yelling to be inappropriate, the head coach should be ejected. Technology age in the coaching box. Situation O. An individual occupying the coach's box has A. a stopwatch, B. a rule book, hard copy, or C. scorebook, hard copy. Legal in A, B, and C. Situation P. An individual occupying a coach's box has A. a miniature radar gun, or B. any electronic device including but not limited to a cell phone, smartphone, tablet, netbook, or notebook computer. Ruling: illegal in A and B. The umpire may either restrict the coach to the dugout or eject him from the game. Coach conduct. Situation Q. The defensive team's head coach, who had previously received a verbal warning and a subsequent written warning and restriction to the dugout, now yells at the umpire from the dugout in protest of another call. Ruling: the coach shall be ejected. Situation R. The defensive team's head coach comes out of the dugout to argue a call. During the argument, the coach A. swears at the umpire, B. makes contact with the umpire, C. turns to the crowd and incites spectators. Ruling: in A, B, and C, if the umpire judges the coach's action to be inappropriate, the coach shall be ejected, even though he had not received a previous verbal or written warning. Situation S. If an umpire judges a coach's unsportsmanlike conduct to be more than rudimentary in nature, but not severe enough to warrant an ejection, may the umpire issue a written warning and restrict the coach to the dugout. Ruling: yes. In such a situation, an umpire may issue a written warning and restrict the dugout a coach who has not previously been verbally warned. Situation T. R3 is on third base with one out. B3 hits a pop fly to F7, and the ball is about to be caught for an out. The assistant coach is in the dugout recording the play. The head coach brings the recording to the field to challenge that R3 left the base early and insists on reviewing the play. Ruling: the umpire informs the coach to return to the dugout. If the coach continues to argue, the umpire shall restrict and, if deemed unsportsmanlike, may eject the coach. Situation U. The coach is using a radar gun in the dugout to record the pitches of the opposing player. Ruling: legal. Coaches may use radar guns in the dugout, but not on the field. Assistant coach conduct. Situation V. With a base runner on first and following an attempted steal, the assistant coach for Team A, who is coaching first, leaves the coaching box and charges onto the field to talk to the base umpire and a two-person crew, arguing that the runner was safe on the attempted steal. Ruling: the assistant coach who was coaching first and the head coach receive a written warning, and both are restricted to the coach dugout for the remainder of the game. If the conduct of either coach were such gravity to violate Rule 331F and other parts, the coaches would be ejected. Situation W. With a base runner on first and following an attempted steal, the assistant coach for Team A, who is coaching first, steps towards the base umpire but remains in the vicinity of the coaching box and asks for clarification from the umpire about the play. The coach commits no other 331F violation. Ruling: there is no penalty against the assistant coach for this act. Situation X. The batter runner is called out on a close play at first base. The assistant coach for that team, which is in the third base dugout, leaves the vicinity of the dugout to voice his displeasure with the call by the first base umpire. Ruling: the assistant coach who left the dugout and the head coach receive a written warning, and both are restricted to the dugout for the remainder of the game. If the conduct of either coach were such gravity to violate Rule 331F and other parts, the coaches could be ejected. Situation Y. Team A has 3 adult coaches. In the first inning, assistant coach A violates 331F 6, resulting in a written warning and a restriction of himself and the head coach to the dugout. In the third inning, assistant coach B leaves the dugout protesting a call on a check swing. Ruling: the head coach remains restricted to the dugout even though 2 different assistants have now been penalized in accordance with this rule. Comment: each act must be judged on its own merit, and multiple violations do not automatically call for ejection of the head coach. Situation Z. Team A has 3 adult coaches. One assistant coach leaves the dugout to object to a call at the plate. During the discussion, plate umpire informs the assistant coach that he and his head coach will now receive a written warning and be restricted to the dugout for the remainder of the game. The second assistant coach now enters the discussion, directing profanity towards the umpire or otherwise violating 331F6. Ruling: the second assistant coach is ejected from the contest. The first assistant coach and the head coach are restricted if no other violations occurred by these individuals. Comment: each act must be judged on its own merit, and it is possible that differing penalties are imposed on different people. Situation AA. At the end of the half inning, the first base coach leaves the coaching box to return to the third base dugout. In passing the umpires, the assistant coach asks for clarification on a play or stops for a quick discussion about a ruling. The coach commits no other 331F violation. Ruling: there is no penalty against the assistant coach for this act, as leaving the vicinity of the coaching box is required to go to the dugout between innings. Bench conduct. Situation BB. Team A has one of its players in uniform in the bleachers behind home plate or in the bleachers along the third baseline. Ruling: all players, attendants, bench personnel shall remain in the dugout or bullpens at all times unless they are a batter, runner, on-deck batter, an occupant of the coach's box, or one of the 9 players on defense. The umpire shall eject the offender from the game unless the offense is judged to be minor in nature, in which case the umpire may warn the offender, then eject him if he repeats the offense. Failure to comply shall result in the game being forfeited. Player throws a bat. Situation CC. After hitting a line drive towards F5, B1 releases the bat, which strikes F2 or the umpire. The act was judged to be by the umpire to be A, intentional, or B, unintentional. Ruling: in A and B, this is a delayed dead ball situation. In A, the offender would be ejected from the game. If his fair hit was a base hit, he would be replaced with a substitute runner. In B, the umpire will warn the coach of that player's team that the next batter on that team to violate the rules shall be ejected from the game. Malicious contact. Situation DD. R3 is advancing to home and initiates malicious contact with F2, who is standing out of the baseline. F2 does not have the ball, and there is no play at the plate. Ruling. This is considered to be interference, and the ball shall be dead immediately. R3 is declared out, and because of his act as malicious, R3 is also ejected from the game. Any other runners must return to the bases they last touched at the time of interference. If declaring the dead ball prevented the defense from completing obvious double play, the umpire shall award the additional out. Situation EE. Upon rounding second, R1 maliciously runs into F6, who is A, in the baseline, or B, not in the baseline. Ruling. In A, the malicious contact supersedes the obstruction. In A and B, R1 is out and also to be ejected because of the unsportsmanlike act. Situation F. With 2 outs and the bases loaded, B6 hits a home run out of the park. R1 maliciously runs over A, F4 before touching second base, or B, F5 before touching third. Ruling. In both A and B, R1 is declared out and ejected. In A, the third out is enforced, so no runs score. In B, the third out was not a forced play, so runners who have touched the plate prior to the infraction would score. Please note that in awarded situations, it is not the base that is awarded, but rather the right to advance and legally touch a base with no play being made. Situation GG. While sliding into second base feet first, R1 maliciously slash out with right leg and trips F6, who is in the act of making the pivot in an attempt to complete a double play. Consequently, F6 throw is wild and goes out of play. Ruling. The ball is dead immediately. R1 is out and ejected for malicious contact. B2 shall be called out by the umpire because this was a forced play slide situation and R1 did not execute an illegal slide. Situation HH. R1 slides safely into second base and, in doing a pop-up slide, maliciously crashes into the second baseman, who was standing by the base without the ball. Ruling. The ball is dead immediately. R1 is called out and ejection from the game for malicious contact. Situation II. With no outs, R2 on second base. B2 hits the ball in the gap. R2 touches and rounds third and heads for home and initiates malicious contact with F2, A, before touching the plate, or B, after scoring. Ruling. In A, the ball is dead, the runner is out and ejected for malicious contact. In B, the run counts, the ball is dead, and the runner is ejected for malicious contact. In either case, the batter runner must return to the last legally acquired base at the time of the malicious contact. Situation JJ. With 2 outs and R2 on second base, R1 on first, B5 hits the ball in the gap. R2 touches and rounds third. R1 touches, rounds second. B5 touches and rounds first. F3 initiates malicious contact with B5 as the play is developing at third base on R1. A, before the tag, B, after the tag. Ruling. In A, the ball is dead, and in the umpire's judgment, R2 scores, R1 is awarded third base, B5 is awarded second base, and F3 is ejected for malicious contact. In B, the ball is dead, the third out at third base is recorded, thus making R2 score a timing play. F3 is also ejected for malicious contact. Balls hit to defense after game is started. During a charge conference, the coach of the other bench personnel A hits or throws fly balls to a substitute outfielder. F8 ruling, illegal in A and B. Player throws a bat. Situation LL. With Team B at bat, A. B1 receives ball 4 and on his way to first base, B1 carelessly flips the bat towards his bench, almost hitting the on-deck batter. Or B. After hitting a ground ball to F5, B1 flips the bat behind him as he begins to advance to first base and the bat strikes F2. Or C. F1, while backing up home plate, picks up the bat and tosses it out of the way, but in doing so almost hits the plate umpire. Ruling. In A, B, and C, the umpire shall issue a team warning to the head coach or of the player committing the infraction. Use of profanity. Situation MM. B1, the team's top hitter, goes to the plate representing the winning run. B1 works to count to 3-1. The opposing team decides to put B1 on and has the pitcher deliver an intentional ball. Upon receiving ball 4, B1 angrily utters profanity. Ruling. The umpire shall give the dead ball signal and eject B1 at the end of playing action. A substitute is allowed to replace B1 at first base. Jewelry. Situation NN. In the first inning, the umpire issues a team warning to the coach of Team B because one of his players was discovered wearing jewelry. Later in the game, another player on that team is observed, A, wearing an earring, or B, a class ring. Ruling. The first warning for the violation of the rule served as a warning to the entire team. A subsequent offense by that nature by any player from the same team shall result in an ejection. Therefore, in A and B, any player wearing jewelry shall be ejected. Videotaping game. Situation 00. The umpire observes the assistant coach in uniform videotaping the game from A, the dugout, or B, the stands. Ruling. Legal in A, illegal in B. Situation PP. The third base coach is in the coach's box using a video camera to tape the pitcher's move to first. Ruling. This is not legal. The third base coach shall be restricted to the dugout bench for the remainder of the game or be ejected. Situation QQ. Unsportsmanlike conduct. Players from Team A begin taunting a player from Team B. Ruling. If in the umpire's judgment the infraction is of a minor nature, then the umpire shall issue a team warning to the coach of the players involved. Otherwise, the umpire shall eject the players, which also shall serve as the team warning. Use of tobacco. Situation RR. The umpire discovers Team A's coach, A, using tobacco while on the bench, B, using tobacco while outside the confines of the field, or C, with a tin of smokeless tobacco in his pocket. Ruling. In A, the umpire shall eject the coach. In B, there is no penalty since the coach is outside the confines of the field. In C, the umpire shall ask the coach to rid himself of tobacco or tobacco-like products. Situation SS. While on the bench, two players appear to the umpire to be using tobacco. The umpire discovers that the substance is not tobacco, but a tobacco-like product. Ruling. Both players are in violation of the rule and shall be ejected. Even though the players were not using tobacco, they gave the appearance of using tobacco products, which is not acceptable. Situation TT. B1 hits a home run over the fence. Before he touches home plate, the umpire notices that B1 has smokeless tobacco in his mouth. Ruling. At the end of playing action, B1 shall be ejected. The run counts. Wearing headbands. Situation UU. A player from Team A is discovered wearing a bandana while A, on the field, B, on the bench, or C, behind the dugout. Ruling. In A and B, the umpire shall issue a team warning to the bench of the involved player. In C, There is no violation because the rule is to be enforced within the confines of the field. Comment: headbands are legal. Illegal substitute. Situation VV. The scorekeeper or a fan informs the umpire of A, an illegal substitute, or B, a player batting out of order. Ruling. In A, the umpire shall call the illegal substitute out and restrict him to the bench because once the umpire is aware of the infraction, he shall enforce the penalty. In B, the umpire shall remain silent unless the defense brings the infraction to his attention. Fighting. Situation WW. R1 slides hard into F4. R1 and F4 begin pushing each other. F6, the on-deck batter, run to second to break up the fight. Ruling. All are ejected. Once F6 and the on-deck batter left their positions and advanced towards the fight, they were in violation of the rule. Situation XX. R1 and F6 begin shoving each other. Their respective coaches rush to the field to control the players. Ruling. R1 and F6 are ejected, but the coaches are not, because they are allowed on the field to break up the fight or to help restore order. Situation YY. As a fight breaks out, Team A's coach rushed onto the field to control his player. As he begins to leave the field, a player from the other team advises the coach to have his team show better sportsmanship. The coach advances towards the player and says something to that player. Ruling. The coach shall be ejected. Situation ZZ. During the third inning, a fight breaks out between the batter and the pitcher near home plate. And A, a non-participating player leaves the bench dugout to retrieve the bat near the two combatants. B, several players leave the dugout bench to restore order. C, F8 leaves his position to observe the confrontation. Ruling. In A, B, and C, the umpire shall eject all players who left the bench dugout and or their positions during the fight. Leaving the dugout bench area during a dead ball. Situation AAA. A player from Team A who has been previously warned hits a 3-run home run out of the field of play and wins the game by 1 run. The teammates of Team A rush out of the dugout and excitedly cheer for their teammate. The coach from Team B wants the player's violation of the rule to be the second violation and have the game forfeited to Team B because Team A failed to comply to the previous warning. Ruling. Incorrect interpretation. By rule, no one should be out of the dugout bench area or bullpen if not a batter, runner, on-deck batter. In the coach's box are one of the 9 players on defense during live ball. The home run is an exciting element of the game of baseball. Since the ball is dead, the teammates of the batter are permitted to be out of the dugout to celebrate. However, precautions should be taken not to interfere with the umpire's ability to see the batter touch all the bases. In fact, the player should be behind the umpire until the runner scores. Situation BBB. Between innings, the non-playing players of Team A run in foul territory towards the outfield fence to stay loose. The coach of Team B protests that this is not legal and is delaying the contest. Ruling. The coach of Team B is incorrect. It is legal provided this activity does not delay the start of the next half of the inning. Ejection. Situation A. The coach has been ejected for unsportsmanlike conduct. Later in the game, his pitcher complains of a sore arm. The coach returns from the parking lot. Ruling. This is not allowed. The coach must be requested by the umpire before he can return. Situation B. After being ejected, Team A's coach, A, returns to the field to break up a fight. B. Returns to the field on his own to attend an injured player. C. Returns on his own to check on a sick player. Or D. Returns after being requested by the umpire to attend to an injured player. Ruling. Illegal in A, B, and C. A coach must first be requested by an umpire before he can return to attend to an ill or injured player. It is legal in D. Situation C. F4 is injured by R1 slide into second base. His coach, who is also a team trainer, was ejected earlier in the game. He is sitting in the parking lot away from the game. Ruling. If the umpire believes that the injured player needs to be attended, he may request the ejected coach to return to the field. The coach cannot return unless requested by the umpire. Pitcher warming up. Situation. As a pitcher is warming up, the coach of the team at bat calls the next batter over to him for a visit near home plate. Ruling. A member of the team at bat should not be allowed to be anywhere nearer home plate than the on-deck circle when the pitcher is warming up. Comment. When it is apparent that the pitcher has completed his warm-up, or when summoned by the umpire, the next batter may come to the plate. A player may report to the umpire who is near home plate, but the player must return to the area of the on-deck circle. Situation. Players are loosening up beyond first base and in foul territory. The area is unprotected. A. A player with a glove is positioned between the players, loosening up, and the batters to serve as a protector. B. No player is available to assume the position between the players, loosening up, and the batter to serve as a protector. C. A player without a glove is positioned between the players, loosening up, and the batter to serve as a protector. Ruling. A. Legal, and B. Illegal. If no player is available to assume the position between the players loosening up and the batter, the players must loosen up outside the confines of the field. In C. Illegal. The player serving as a protector to the players loosening up must have a glove. Comment. It is not mandatory that the protector wear a helmet. Charge conferences. Situation A. The coach of the defensive team moves to the pitcher's mound in the 8th inning. A. After having used his 3 allowable defensive charge conferences in the first 7 innings, or B. Not having used any of his 3 allowable charge conferences in the first 7 innings. Ruling. There is no penalty in either, A or B. A team is permitted 3 defensive charge conferences in a 7-inning game, and if the game goes into extra innings, that team is permitted only 1 charge defensive conference in each of the extra innings. Unused defensive charge conferences in the first 7 innings are not accumulative. Situation B. The coach of the team at bat requests and is granted time so he may have a conference with either the batter or the runner. Therefore, if the defensive team's coach goes up to the mound to talk to the pitcher, should the defensive team be charged with a conference also? Ruling. No. When either the team is granted time for a conference with the other coach, or representatives may do so likewise without being charged with a conference, unless the opposing coach or his representative delays the game by not being ready to play when the other team's charge conference is completed. Situation C. The coach of the defensive team has used his 3 charge conferences. In the 7th inning, the coach, A, stops play to confirm with his infielders about a bunt situation, or B, goes to the mound to check his pitcher who has just been hit by a batted ball. Ruling. In A, F1 must be removed as pitcher for the remainder of the game. In B, this is not a charged conference. Situation D. In the 3rd inning, the coach of the defensive team, who is yet to have a charged conference, goes to the mound to talk to his pitcher. He, A, changes pitchers, or B, does not change pitchers. The next inning, he receives time to visit with his catcher. How many charged conferences has the coach accumulated? Ruling. The meeting with the catcher is one charged conference. In A, there is no charged conference, so the coach still has two charged conferences remaining. In B, he has accumulated two charged conferences, one for the visit with the catcher and one for the pitcher who was removed. Therefore, the coach would have one charged conference remaining. Situation E, Team A has two charged conferences. The coach of the Team A is granted time to visit with his pitcher. At the same time, his assistant coach goes out to talk to the first baseman. The opposing team's coach claims that the other conference should also be assessed and that the pitcher would have to be removed since it would have been that team's fourth. Ruling: as long as the assistant coach does not delay the game when play is to resume, there is no penalty. If he does delay, his team is subject to the additional charge conference being called, which then would require the pitcher to be removed for the rest of the game. Situation F. In the top of the fifth inning, A, the defensive team's head coach asks for time to check on his center fielder who appeared to be ill at the time. B, the assistant coach goes out to the pitcher's mound to visit with the pitcher. He has a charged conference occurred. Ruling: a conference is not charged when time is called for an obviously incapacitated player. In A, the umpire judged a player and the coach went to check on was ill and unable to continue. Then no conference would be called. In B, since time is out, the assistant coach is permitted on the field to talk to any defensive player. When play is to resume, if he is not off the field, he shall be charged with a conference for delay. Note: if the umpire believes that a player is faking an injury so that the coach can come talk to the pitcher or another defensive player without being charged a conference, the umpire may prohibit additional conferences from taking place at that time. Situation G. Team A has three charged conferences by the fifth inning. With the game tied in the sixth inning, the coach of Team A informs the umpire that A, F6 and F1 are going to trade positions, or B, that S1 is replacing F1. Can the pitcher who is being replaced return to pitch later in the game, or is considered a charged conference? Ruling: in A and B, the pitcher being replaced may return to pitch as long as all conditions of 3-1-2 note are met. The umpire shall permit the coach to switch players or substitute, provided the coach does not take advantage of the situation by having a conversation with any of his players. A violation shall result in a charged conference being assessed, which would be more than allowed, resulting in the pitcher not being able to return to pitch. Situation H. Between innings, the coach of Team A walks from the third base coach box to the pitcher's mound and proceeds a visit with F1. Ruling: F1 has 1 minute in which to complete his warm-up throws. At that point, the coach should leave the field. The umpire should not allow play to begin until the coach is off the field. The umpire may assess the coach a charged conference if he delays leaving the field. Situation I. The coach of the defensive team, just after the ball is returned to F1, yells from the dugout, A, giving instructions to F4 and F6, or B, to have F6 and F9 switch positions. Ruling: situations A and B do not warrant a charged conference being called. Situation: a coach goes to the pitcher's mound for a defensive charged conference. He, A, starts to return to his dugout but does not cross the foul line and return to the pitcher's mound to continue the charged conference. Or B, starts to return to his dugout, crosses the foul line, and then returns to the pitcher's mound. Ruling: in A, the coach is not charged for a second conference unless the umpire has told him previously his time was up. In B, the coach is charged with a second conference, as he has ended his initial charged conference when he crossed the foul line, unless he removes the pitcher after returning to the mound. Situation: A coach requests an offensive charge conference with R2, who is on second base. The coach goes to second base for the conference with the runner and then starts to return to the coach's box. Ruling: the offensive conference ends when the coach starts to return to his position.